Hey guys, HippieHolo1 here. Welcome back to another video, and today I stole my own layout. As you can tell, it is no longer here. I have moved to a different state, and I took the layout with me, so it's currently sitting up in a storage unit. But no worries, that'll come back eventually. I just need, actually have a place that I can set it up. But for now, not having the layout down in my basement means that I have the opportunity to set up a little loop of standard gauge track and run some of the standard gauge trains that I've had sitting on a shelf in my basement for years and haven't had the opportunity to show you guys yet. So hope you all enjoy. First thing. Hello. Second of all, this is the first engine. This actually has appeared on my channel once before. This is the Lionel Classics era, so it's from the Richard Kuhn period, I believe. It's like sometime in the 90s. This is the Blue Comet. Very beautiful engine. This does not have rail sounds or anything like that. It's not like the Hiawatha or the Commodore Vanderbilt that actually have rail sounds. I think it's 4.0 and Trainmaster Command Control. This is just straight conventional, bare bones, just literally meant to be a recreation of the original standard gauge trains that were made back in the pre-war period. So let's pull this thing out here. This is a 400E. I can't remember what there was a smaller Blue Comet that they made using a different locomotive that was obviously smaller. But this one is the big one, and it's got a little bit of weight to it, but honestly not as much as you would think. It's heavy, but honestly I think some of my O-gauge engines are heavier. But anyway, I don't think I'm going to put the flags on it just because I'm lazy. But there's the locomotive. Really nice thing is that it doesn't use a worm drive, so you can just push it around. And then here is the tender for it. This is I think it's based on an oil tender. I don't know what locomotive the 400E was based on, if it was based on any at all. They were meant to be toys. They weren't meant to be prototypical. That philosophy didn't really come around until I think it was the late 30s. I think the 400E and the B6 that they made were the first really scale locomotives that were meant to look like locomotives. I could be wrong about that, especially because stuff like the 1666 exists, which is a pre-war die-cast locomotive that Lionel made that vaguely resembles an actual steam locomotive. So let me hook this up here. And there's our loco. And I have 3 matching passenger cars to go with it. Okay, here are the passenger cars. Let's crack these open here. As you can see, I do a great job of remembering to put the instruction manuals back into each of their boxes. Put those off to the side. Let's see here, is this the OBS card? That's the OBS card. Let's start on the other end. Start at the front of the train. Again, Lionel Classics period. The original Blue Comets are very valuable. They're absolutely stunning engines. I'd love to have one someday, but this is honestly just fine for me. It's cheaper, it looks probably better than some of the originals because, it's newer and it's cleaner. And that's all I really care about. So, having an original would be neat, but I don't got the money for that. So, here's our first car. This is Faye. This is the first of the 2 passenger cars. I am not positive. I know Lionel sometimes liked to mix and match, whether they did 3-car trains or 4-car trains. A lot of the early stuff I think was 3-car trains, but as they started to get more powerful locomotives, I think they started doing 4-car trains, or like 4-car sets. You guys will have to correct me on that if I'm wrong, but yeah, so absolutely beautiful car. These don't come out very often. I ran them for Christmas a number of years ago. You can actually find that video on my YouTube channel. But other than coming out for that reason, like once every, I don't know, 5 years or so, these really don't see the light of day a whole lot. One of the downsides of standard gauge, and the reason that it fell off in popularity compared to O-scale, is just because of its size. It's huge. How are you supposed to run this in a small suburban home? And how are you supposed to build a layout for it without basically a warehouse to really explore, you know, what was to offer in terms of accessories and some of the larger engines out there, like the Brute. If you're talking Lionel Corporate Tin Plate, which is the NTH contracted under Lionel to make these tin plate trains. You want to run something big like that, you better have a lot of space for it. I do have I actually don't remember what color it is. I haven't had it out in a very long time, but there's a Super 381 over on that shelf back there with, I think, a state car set that I'm going to get out a little bit later. And we'll run that for you guys too. Here is the second car. This is Westfall. These cars are named after comets. That was one of the reasons that it got its name. But yeah, another absolutely stunning car. The real Blue Comet was a Jersey Central name train. I believe it ran during the pre-war periods. I don't remember what the destinations were. I'm sure somebody in the comments probably knows. But it was painted in this paint scheme. It was painted in this this lovely two-tone blue. Gorgeous locomotive. I would love to have one in O-scale of the original Jersey Central. I would love to have a tin plate O-scale or O-gauge Blue Comet as well, but those are, again, very expensive. So I don't know if I'll ever get one of those in my fleet. But yeah, if you guys know more about the Jersey Central Blue Comet, like where it went to and from, that'd be awesome to drop that in the comments. Educate me a little bit and educate the others. There was one thing about it. It didn't run for very long, if I remember correctly. And towards the end, it actually didn't use a lot of the Blue Comet equipment. I think after the war, or right before the war or during the war, it actually just ran with a black locomotive up front, and then just random cars that they had lying around. But you know, that was wartime. That was what they did on the railroads. And then here is the OBS car. This is Temple. Need to be dusted, but yeah, and all of these cars also have interiors. The tops just pop right off, and you can take a nice look at the insides of them. It was one of those features about standard gauge trains that was, in my opinion, really neat. There really isn't a way to do it in O-scale nowadays, just because they're just too small. You can see through the windows, but making the tops just pop off, you're going to lose some realism, which is more what people are after nowadays than the play factor of it, which is, you know, what these were built for. So, while it would be a neat feature on modern engines, there's just no real practical way of doing it. So, now that we have our engine out, let's go fire up my transformer and give it a little run. For the three of you out there that are curious about what I'm using to run this thing, this is Lionel's 6-32930. It is nicknamed the ZWC for command control. These were equipped with internal electronics that allowed them to operate with Trainmaster Command Control just by hooking up the common on the control box. I can't remember what it's called. To any of the grounds on the back of this transformer, the whole thing would be controlled by Trainmaster Command Control. You can control track power for any 4 of these tracks, whistle and bell functions. That's what I was using on my layout, which is why I was able to run conventional locomotives using the TMCC controller. The quirky thing about them is that some of them work with Legacy and some of them don't. This is not the one that I was using on my layout. That one is up with the layout. And this one, I'm actually curious to see if it does work with Legacy. So some of the earlier ZWCs do not work with Legacy. It messes with, a bunch of the internal electronics, and it basically just triggers a halt function to keep, triggering. And you can't run your trains. But some of the later versions of it had an updated firmware, which actually was cross-compatible with the Legacy system. I guess because they had determined, they had worked out that it was coming out, so they updated the firmware so that it would be cross-compatible when they released it. The upgrades for the old ZWCs don't exist anymore. You can't find them anywhere. I was reading through a couple forums, and there are people that are trying to figure out how to upgrade it, but honestly, it's almost worth it just to buy a ZWL. But I had this lying around, or rather my grandfather did, so I asked to borrow it, and I'm going to test it out and see if it works with Legacy. But this is the weird thing about it is that it uses these, which are external power supplies. This is a 180 watt external power supply, which is how, one, this is really light, and two, this is how it gets all its power, because they couldn't fit all of the electronics to run the command control system and actually, provide a decent amount of power for everything that you're running. So I've got it plugged in. Flip on the power switch here. Usually you have one of these for each track. The set comes with two of them, one for the outside and or one for each of the outside throttles. But yeah, got a green light, good to go. Let's power it up and run this engine around. Alright, here's the next engine. This is the, I believe this is the Lionel Corporate Tin Plate Super 381. So this was made by MTH, and it has, I think it's Protosound 2 in it. Yes, Protosound 2.0. Does it say what color it is? Green. Neat. Let's, well, that side's taped. So I guess we'll open it on this side. The side that's been opened before. And if I remember correctly, I need like tools to do this. So let's find out. Maybe not. battery component replacement, 3-volt PS2. Okay. So I guess this has had the battery removed. Oof. Yeah, it's got some weight to it. Okay. This thing is very thoroughly packaged, and the answer is yes, I am going to need tools to get this open. Okay. Alright, so here it is in its little metal case. I'm going to go grab some Phillips head or flathead screwdrivers here and take off these side plates so I can take this engine out of its crate. It's definitely a lot of foam. So I forgot just how absolutely colossal this thing is. It is not designed to go around these corners, so I will not be able to run it for you guys. But I can bring you guys in and give you guys a nice close-up of this engine. But before I do that, I want to show you the cars that I have for this thing, because I originally thought I had the state cars, just, you know, same size as the Blue Comet cars that I had showed you earlier. This box is a little bigger than that. What these are is the standard gauge showroom coach car. Or this is one of, I have three. I think 2 coaches and an OBS. I'll have to double check. But these are the two-tone green. They are named after states. This one is New York. So let's crack this open and I'll show you guys what these things look like. Yeah, these things are big. So here it is. This is the New York showroom car. And it is huge. So some features, the doors open, you know, traditional tin plate stuff. To pop the roof off, there's 2 little buttons. And then the roof is actually on a hinge instead of coming off altogether like on the traditional heavyweights. We got all our seats in here. You have 2 bathrooms. You got one on each end of the car. In these bathrooms, you can see in there, the toilet seat's actually open. And I can reach down there and I can shut it. The door is open, as you can see here, which is very neat. If you loosen the screws in each of the seats, they swivel, which is fun. But yeah, Lots and lots and lots and lots of detail for something from, you know, this era. But this is what you could do when your cars are, you know, I don't even know how long this is, probably like 26 inches long. It's huge. But this, I think, was designed to be pulled by the Brute, which was a locomotive that was never made for mass production. And instead, we have the dual motor Super 381s, which can pull, I think, 3 of them, but not 4, which is one of the reasons why they always did 3 car sets, I think, allegedly. I'm not sure. But yeah, let's crack open the other 2 so I can show you just how long of a train this thing makes. So this is not what I expected the next shot to be. I went to go show the sounds to my fiance and push the bell button, and it just sunk all the way into the controller. And here the bracket that held it on disintegrated. So that's fun. So I can probably glue the switch back on, but I don't think I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to switch over and use the red side because that side still works. But yeah, so that's the inside of a ZWC 06. I guess maybe that's the build year. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, if you were curious, there you go. So there you go. Yeah, it's massive. The Super 381 is actually meant for like the state cars. But yeah, I don't know why my grandfather decided that these 2 needed to go together, and that was the set that he was going to give us. But yeah, here we go. Also, the showroom cars are also too big to fit on these corners. If you couple them together, they just bind and flip over. You may have noticed that at the very end of the shot where I was getting out the San Francisco car, the second coach car. I coupled it up to the obs, went to go run it around the track, and then it almost threw the observation car off the track, so whoops. But yeah, so let's take a closer look at the Super 381 here and power it up and show you some of the sounds. So obviously there's a couple different versions of this in terms of color schemes. I know there's a green, there's a brown, I think there's an orange and red as well for like a Milwaukee Road scheme, as well as a bunch of others that MTH did. I'm not sure if Lionel also did them, but yeah, so this one is obviously the green version. This is meant to go with the traditional 2-tone green state cars, but let's take a close look. Up front I put on the little flag stanchions here, because I thought they were pretty neat. I don't know if they're supposed to have flags on them, but that's what came out of the package, so that's what I put on. We have some dual color lights, one's red and one's green, and I think it depends on which way the engine's running. I'm not entirely sure. Up here we have a headlight. One side is red, and on the opposite side it's green. These headlights are directional because of the MTH Proto Sound. We have a bell here that kinda swings, not really. There's a pantograph here that does go up. Little mini pantograph. It's very cute. These are modeled off of, I believe, the Milwaukee Road bipolars, which are pretty neat engines. And Lionel recently did a model of it, and I think they actually had in the catalog a like a tin plate style 2-tone green bipolar, which is, you know, meant to look like this thing. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Doors do not open. It does have the nice plates, 381S, Lionel lines. This was done under contract with Lionel, which is why it has all the Lionel stuff, even though it was built by MTH. Rear pantograph also goes up. I believe this is the vent for the steam generator, and then here is the other side of the headlight. Both headlight housings are identical, so this is the green side of it. And then this half looks exactly like the front. So pretty neat engine. Let's power it up and give it a listen.
Check the tension on that pantograph, will you?
And here's what the showroom cars look like when they're all lit up. I got one more here. This one's actually kind of interesting because I have two of them. This one is the Lionel Corporate Template 1835E with Protosound 2, and then upstairs I actually have an original 1835E that I'll be bringing down so that we can compare the two. But yeah, let's crack this guy open and throw it on the track. And then to go along with it, I have three of these 300 series cars. Alright, so here it is. This is the Lionel Corporate Template 1835E. By the way, one of my favorite features about tinplate trains is that to access the front bulb. But anyway, so along with the locomotive, these are the cars. It's a red and brown. It's a 300 or 310, 309, and I think a 312 observation car. This is actually the first time I've had all three out to run them. So without further ado, let's get these things running around. Alright, so here it is compared to the original 1835E. There are a couple differences, primarily the trim and then the presence of this E-unit, which isn't on that, and then the tenders are different. But that could just be a year-to-year thing. I'm not too familiar with this particular locomotive, but for what it's worth, they are pretty much identical. So I'm going to throw this engine on, and we're going to give it a spin with these cars, and we'll wrap this up. So there you have it. That is my small, or I guess not too small, Lionel and Lionel Corporate Template standard gauge collection. Let me know if you guys have like a favorite color combo or something. Drop a comment, whether it's this red and brown or the two-tone blue or two-tone green or something that I didn't show in this video. Drop it down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. But yeah, anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. I am CW Hollow 1, and have a good day, or maybe good night in your case. See ya.